Catholics first got here, that's where the city of Los Angeles began. They built a huge cathedral directly on that site, so the Indians had to actually come in to the cathedral to actually worship on that site. By the way, the throat chakra point is the only sacred chakra point on the planet that doesn't actually have, I mean, there's churches all around it, but doesn't actually have a sacred structure or monument built on top of it. You have, there's Lhasa in Tibet, which is the Dalai Lama's Patola is. You have Giza in Egypt, and that's the base root chakra of the planet. The second chakra, the prostate ovarian chakra, is the Great Pyramid of Giza. The solar plexus is Stonehenge. The heart chakra is a little more interesting because the heart chakra is Machu Picchu, which is the base frequency, but Easter Island is the high frequency. The throat, or the voice chakra, is downtown Los Angeles. And the third eye is a sacred temple, which is called it's a religion called Tenrikyo, and there's a pillar actually that sticks into the center of the third eye, almost like an acupuncture needle, called the Kaodi Dai, and it's in a suburb of Osaka, Japan, actually right near Kobe. So it's also very interesting that when the Northridge quake happened on January 17th of 1994, exactly 1 year, almost to the minute, you had the Kobe quake, which was the throat chakra opening first, and then the third eye chakra opening again. Also, some of our investigations into this area that were very interesting. There have been legends for many years about catacombs and tombs of a race of giants, actually huge 12-foot tall Nordic men in what used to be a gigantic civilization out in Death Valley. And there's been many legends that there's been great treasures that have been hidden in Death Valley in that area. So a lot of these things, there's another fellow by the name of Robert Goodman that had a magazine here too that claimed that many monuments up in the Santa Monica Mountains, he would take people on hikes up there, could actually see these huge heads of what looked to be ancient Hindu gods like Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma and what have you. And even the very name of California is California, which actually means Kali, the black death goddess who builds cities by the sea. And it was actually named by one of Cortez's men, because when Cortez was actually going up into California, they thought it was an extension of an island of Baja, and they actually named it after it actually came from a book of sort of the Spanish version of Arthurian legends about Redondo de Esplanade, about an island of black warrior women in the West Indies, which was called California, and that's what California is named after. Kali, the black death goddess who built cities by the sea. So it's just very interesting. Also, Los Angeles being our Mother Mary, the ascended coordinated queen of the angels, and of course they park the Queen Mary in Long Beach Harbor. So there's a lot of really spiritual significance about where you are and where you live. You know, they don't call us the angels, the messengers of El, for nothing. This is the communication chakra, communication vortex, and it's for you and your responsibility to communicate the message of El, of God, of the higher spirit to the rest of the world. So, if that answers your question. Yeah, you guys are special. It's a neat place to live.
One final footnote. You know, you can tell an awful lot about these ancient cultures and what they knew by where they placed these sites. And I don't know whether Daniel knows this, but Teotihuacan is at 19.5. Okay. 33 goes just south of Los Angeles. It's actually built where Palomar Observatory, George Ellery Hale built Palomar there for a reason. Parsons and the OTO folks used to have ceremonies on Palomar Mountain at 33. Giza's at 30. These are all connected to the physics. These are codes to the physics. One night, remember how George keeps talking about how he can't understand why he keeps seeing 1111 over again? Well, 1111 is a code for 19.5. And if you want to see, this is where the commercial comes in now. If you want to see how this works, you come to my workshop tonight or you come to the one on Monday night. The one tonight is the one on the ruins on the moon that George Bush and company are secretly going back to keep the rest of the world from finding out and exploiting. And I'm going to show you some amazing, astonishing, no question, absolutely zero question. When you leave tonight, you will have no question there are ones on the moon, and the in-crowd guys, the same guys that gave you Iraq, are trying to steal this from you and keep you and the rest of the world from knowing, because they want what's there for themselves. And, oh yeah, there's a 19.5 involved. On Monday night, I'm going to have a little fun, because we're getting into the why of this, what they think they're doing, and how it relates to 2012. And I have found this out just in the last 48 hours, where I can substantiate it, I have found the most amazing connection between the death of John Kennedy and 2012 you can possibly imagine. And I'll be showing that on Monday night.
Cool.
Buy your tickets now, folks.
This question is for the panel as a whole. I know that either within corporations or secret research facilities or even the military, there are people who know that something has gone terribly wrong. They want to change, but they're not sure how. How do we bring the change to a point where a lot of quietly frustrated people throughout the spectrum of institutions will join us?
It's
That's
happening
a heck
now.
of a question.
It's happening
Yes.
now. It's one of the reasons why you haven't had a 9/11 caliber terrorist event.
Mike, get closer. Mike.
It's one of the reasons why you haven't had a 9/11 terrorist. You know what they call themselves behind the scenes? They call them the Cowboys and the Indians. They call them the Cowboys, which are a very, very small black ops section that's been trying to blow up a city in the United States for the past 7 years to get the rest of the agenda happening. And the Indians are literally the people on the ground, the police officers. Look, there's a lot of really good people in government. I haven't met any of them, but there's a lot of really good people in government. and these people are trying to stop certain things from happening. One other note that is of interest, you guys have probably heard of the spy bot experiment of George, I hope I'm saying his name right, George Ur. And his spy bots go out onto the internet and actually take certain phrases, and they put together hypotheses based on I guess you can say a quantum wave of things that are happening on the net. And he's claiming that the same type of spike, this was a Princeton experiment, by the way, the same type of spike that they saw in the 2-month period leading up to 9/11, they're seeing the exact same type of spike now, leading up to another 9/11 style event. And believe me, the buddy that I wrote Black Seraph with, Wayne Haley, is one of the top guys. He was a presidential advisor. He will not take George Bush's phone calls. The last meeting he had with the president, he walked out shaking his head, going, "My God, this guy really does have an IQ of 89. Mm-hmm. This guy's really this dumb." And he couldn't believe it. And he was the one that performed the tracheotomy on Al-Zakari when they drug him out of the wreckage, and the Marines started stomping on his chest because they wanted to keep him alive to question him. And this is the guy that I wrote with, because we were talking about the Catholic Church and about some interesting things that were going on globally. This is basically a true story that we couldn't tell until the Pope died in April of 2005. Believe me, there are so many people behind the scenes. I mean, the real militia that are guys that know where we're going, know what's coming. And all I can point out is that having conversation with these people, knowing some of these people, I mean, they talk to me because I can at least do something with this information. They see it coming. Believe me, they love the Constitution as much as else does, and they see what's about to happen, and there are things going on behind the scenes on your behalf every day that keep things from certain things happening. You will never hear them in the news. You will never hear that 4 trucks were intercepted that were coming together to build an atomic bomb, and they found one of these bombs and had to take it 100 miles off the coast and blow it up, and almost blew up Baltimore, sometime about 18 months ago. You'll never hear stuff like that. But it takes, alternative media. And remember, too, we're in the alternative media. I always like to say the conspiracy theorists are always right. We're always right eventually. It's just that we have to rely on, it's true. It's absolutely true. I know the government was behind 9/11 because they screwed it up so bad. It was so obvious. It was so obvious. The bottom line, the conspiracy...
trying to tell you that the laws of physics, those buildings fell in free fall.
Right. Well,
buildings collapsing do not fall in free fall like I would drop an apple from the top and down. They fell in 8 seconds.
You can tell the government was behind it because they goofed everything up so bad. It was in broad daylight. The conspiracy theorists are always right. We need time, however, to get to the facts, to get to the truth, and usually our sources are people whose jobs are at risk, whose pensions are at risk, people who say, look, I got to say this on the QT off the record. You can never get to the smoking gun of what's going on. So well, in my opinion, to answer your question, so many other people have this, there are things happening behind the scenes. There is only a very small core of people that want these to happen, and a mass of policemen and firemen and FBI and government officials across the board who are trying to stop the things that we're talking about from happening.
Coming off what Sean said, can I interrupt? Sure. Thanks. Uncle.
Sugar doodle.
It's really important to understand that the only way the really dark stuff takes place, I mean, I have a cliche that I've said about NASA for many, many, many years now, that most of them are but dumb. And that's not a pejorative.